Hi, you are in the ladies' room with Dr. Donica, the only public ladies' room you can enter anytime without ever waiting online. I'm your host, Dr. Donica Moore. We'll be having real conversations with real women about really intimate issues. They may be embarrassing, sad, or funny, but they will always be interesting and informative. You know, like the best conversations you've had in ladies' rooms with your best friends, or total strangers and a physician. Please join us. Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of In the Ladies' Room with Dr. Donica. I have to tell you, one of the best things about having this podcast is that I get to reconnect with fabulous people I've met in various circumstances in my past, and they come on and we get to share their passions with you. My guest today I'm so excited about because, as many of you know, I am a huge Olympics fan, and we have had Nancy Hogshead Makar on as a guest, who was a 3-time Olympic champion. And today we have a 4-time Olympian, Joetta Clark Diggs. Now, we met on my birthday 3 years ago when we were both speakers at the American Heart Association Garden State Go Red for Women Luncheon in Somerset, New Jersey. I found out that not only is she an incredibly accomplished athlete who's made an indelible impact in sports and business, but she's also an inspiring and motivational speaker on heart health, fitness, and related topics. And one of the things I loved is she had the audience get up and do exercises right then and right there. And she said, no matter what your age and no matter what your stage of fitness, you can always improve. So today we're going to get some motivational tips from her on maintaining physical fitness regardless of your age and stage. But first, let me tell you a little bit about her background. And I'm just warning you, I could go on and on and on. So I'm going to try to rein it in and just give you the highlights. Joetta Clark Diggs has had a legendary athletic career over more than 2 decades as a runner. She's a graduate of the University of Tennessee, where she was a 9-time NCAA champion and a 15-time All-American. And then, as I mentioned before, she represented the United States at 4 Olympics, 1988, 1992, 1996, and 2000. During her career running in both the 800 and the 1500 meter competitions, she was also ranked among the top 10 Americans for over 21 years. Now, we usually think of these sports as being for, older teenagers, college students, and maybe a couple of years afterwards. But from 1991 until 1998, she was ranked in the top 10 in the world and was an 11-time American national champion. Additionally, from 1979 to 2000, which was the year she officially retired from running, she competed in 20 USA indoor and outdoor championships and 6 Olympic trials. In addition, she has set world and American records, captured world championship medals, and served as the captain of the women's USA team in 2000. But just because she retired from competitive running in 2000 does not mean she has slowed down or stopped running things. She's a New Jersey native, and she established the Joetta Clark Diggs Sports Foundation in 2002 to promote involvement with physical activity for girls and boys in grades K through 12. The foundation is committed to teaching good health and instilling a positive work ethic associated with participation in sports. In addition, it strives to introduce different opportunities to children in both sports and entertainment industries, and focuses on the correlation between academic success and athletic success. The Joetta Clark Diggs Sports Foundation, oh, that doesn't roll off the tongue. Let me try that again. The Joetta Clark Diggs Sports Foundation's annual programs include the Financial and Fitness Expo, the Head to Toe Fitness Program, the Fitness Challenge, Eliminate Excuses, I need to take that one, and Joetta's Geniuses. Throughout these programs, the foundation has positively impacted the lives of over 50,000 children, which is incredible. Now, Joetta is also the president of Joetta Sports and Beyond, where she delivers messages of health, fitness, empowerment to corporations, colleges, medical programs, and civic organizations. In 2009, she authored her first book, which I loved, called Joetta's P Principles for Success, Life Lessons Learned from Track and Field. Now, she's not just an extremely accomplished individual. As any accomplished athlete will tell you, she comes from an extremely accomplished team. And her first team is her family. In 2000, she was joined by her younger sister, Hazel Clark, her sister-in-law, Gerald Miles Clark, and their coach, her brother JJ, to make Olympic history as the only family to fill all 3 spots on the Olympic team in the same event. In addition, I did not find this out until after I had met her and after I had been a fan for decades. She is the daughter of Joetta Clark and the noted national educator and principal, Dr. Joe Clark, who was portrayed by Morgan Freeman in one of my favorite all-time movies, Lean on Me. So I'm going to have some questions for you about that too.
Yes.
Now, Joetta has also received a long list of honors, including having been inducted into the New Jersey Hall of Fame in 2013 and the UT Hall of Fame in 2001. She's also been inducted into the USA Track and Field Hall of Fame, named Star Ledger Women Athlete of the Century, member of the Circle of Red and the American Heart Association, and a board member of the Raritan Valley Community College, which is in my neighborhood, BTW, and many, many more. She's married to businessman Ron Diggs, and they have one child who's a daughter. Anyway, welcome to the ladies' room. I'm tired just reading your introduction.
Wow, I'm tired too, but thank you for taking the time to read everything and to brief your audience as to what I've done. After hearing it, I'm like, wow, I don't know what else. Yeah, I know, right? Thank you.
My pleasure. And thank you for wearing that t-shirt, which is a message that I need to repeat every day.
Yes.
And for those of us who are just listening to us on the podcast and not watching on the video, it says eliminate excuses. So maybe instead of just having seminars for young people, we need to target their mothers so we can learn how we can keep up our own fitness in our advanced years.
Yes, our best years, I always say.
The best is yet to come. Yes. So tell me, how did you get started in track and field?
Well, that is a long, a long time ago. But basically, my father introduced me to running distance back in the mid-'60s. And basically, he wanted us to do an event that no one else did. And to do something that quite frankly, women were just getting into distance. Mm-hmm. And Black people from this country did not run distance. We basically ran sprinting. Mm-hmm. So my father said, well, whatever you tell your kids to do, and if you provide them a platform and direction, they can do it. Thus, we went straight from the sprints to the 800, 1500 and cross country. And that was where I've been ever since.
Well, I will tell you, I also come from an athletic family. I'm the oldest of 6, and we were all swimmers.
Okay.
And so I was a distance swimmer as well as a butterflyer, so we used to have a saying, when the going gets tough, the sprinters get out.
Absolutely right. Running the distance runs and that training, mm-hmm. Every athlete trains hard for this respective discipline. Yeah. But for the distance running, there's miles and miles of loneliness out in the roads. Yeah. And during that time, you develop a lot of characteristics that you need to be successful, not only in sports, but in life.
Well, and when you were training, we didn't have iPods or earbuds.
No, we didn't have any of that. No computers, no laptops, no iPhones, no emails, no YouTube to find out about workouts. So mm-hmm. Everything was done very honestly and simple, but effective.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Now, I mentioned the movie, Lean on Me, which I loved, and I've watched it many, many times since it came out. But what I was surprised by at the time, long before I knew that this was your father, is that it really didn't reference in any way his own family.
Right.
I guess one of the messages of the movie was that the children in the school were his family. But was that a conscious decision on his part or on the writer's part? Or tell me how that worked.
Well, that was a conscious decision on the writer's part because it was going to be a sequel. And when the movie came out in 1989, the sequel, it did really well. And then my father had to have an aortic valve replacement.
I'm sorry.
So that kind of got in the way of the sequel because it took years to recover from that. And by that time, as you know, in that industry, things move on. The dynamic and landscape changes. So they never really revisited the sequel. So that the rest was history. But the movie is still out. It's still seen. He still gets residuals. And so it's still a good thing. But if not, the second one did not come out. But that would have been the family and his moving on from Patterson East Side to his new career.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, I think I related to the movie so much because I grew up in Brooklyn and went to a very similar high school as was portrayed in the movie. Now, did you go to that high school or did you go to a different school?
No. I grew up in Newark and in South Orange during the 60s. So I went to high school at Columbia High School in South Orange. So that's where I did my middle school, elementary school, and junior high and high school.
Great. So let's fast forward now to all the work you're doing with high school students and younger.
Yes.
And I know you have camps and you have programs. What motivated you to start all of this?
I believe, Donica, I believe that to whom much is given, much is required.
Absolutely.
So as I was kind of winding down my career athletically, I thought that I've been given a great platform as an athlete, as a woman in the sports industry to do something, and I did not know what. So I was just talking to a friend, and this foundation idea concept came up. We put pen to paper because we didn't have iPads and computers then. And we drafted up everything. And then the Joetta Clark Diggs Sports Foundation started in 2002, providing track camps, fitness programs, obesity, life skills. And then over the years, we've added bullying and mental capacity programs. So it's grown since then. But that was the basic idea. We wanted to get the kids moving. We did not want them to have a sedentary lifestyle. And we wanted to get the parents involved too. So that is how that all started.
That's awesome. And I imagine that not only have you been a phenomenal role model to these children, but I imagine they've taught you quite a bit over the years.
I always think.
What are some of the things that you're learning from them?
Well, one thing I've learned from them is that no matter what, they want someone to love them, to be there for them, and someone to talk to. So I always say, talk so your kids can listen, and listen so your kids can talk. So they have taught me to listen. And then also through listening, I've gotten some ideas to implement into my programs. They've taught me that how to remain young, because with them, all the language and the words and the music that they're listening to, it keeps me relevant with them. So when I go to an event, I can use their language. When I speak to women in corporations, I speak one way. But to get and to keep the attention of and to educate and to inspire the youth, there's certain words and languages and songs that you must know in order for them to stay connected to the conversation.
Right. So you can be cool.
So I can be cool. Not embarrass my daughter.
I was just going to ask you, does your daughter think you're cool?
No, mommy doesn't know anything. Mommy is not cool. And that's okay. I have thousands of kids that think I'm cool, so I'm happy.
That's the advantage. You have thousands of other kids who think you're cool. I will tell you a story that Mary Lou Retton told me one time, and of course she was an extremely accomplished Olympic gymnast, was I think the first gymnast ever to get a perfect 10 in all of her events. Incredible woman. She has 4 daughters.
Yes.
She was telling this story about how she never wanted to be a gymnastics mother, and one of her daughters was really excelling at a young age, and they were just horsing around on the lawn, and her daughter did a round off back handspring. And she said, I swear, all I said was, that's really great, sweetie, but when you're at the top of your round off, just point your toes a little more and get your feet together. Yes. And the girl looked at her. She's 10 years old. She puts her hands on her hips like only a 10-year-old daughter can do.
Right.
And she gives her the eye, and she says, what do you know?
Really?
I love that story. And it always made me feel great as a mother that I said, okay, even Mary Lou Retton, who's an Olympic gymnast, her daughter sassed her.
Yes.
Now, one of the things I did with my daughter, I will tell everybody who's listening, and my daughter is a lovely young adult now, but when she was about 10, she had a little too much sass in her. And I took a lesson from my years of being an athlete, and any back talk, I had her do push-ups. It was just a great way for me to keep my cool.
Yes.
Lose my temper.
Yes.
And for her it was physical. So it took out whatever the angst was. Right. And it made her stronger.
Right. Well, that's we all do our little different things. I think now with my daughter, trying to get her to listen and trying to get her to, you want the kids to have their own voice. Mm-hmm. However, you don't want them at different ages to be too bossy and have a voice with you. Yeah. So I'm kind of at 15 at that point where you want her to have her own voice and identity and not cloud her issues and visions too much. But on the same token, you don't want her to, if I call you and you don't say yeah to me, what do you want? You want, if I'm calling you, I must want something. Mm-hmm. So get up to see what I want. So I'm at that point with her at the age of 15. That's the teenage
push-ups.
Years.
I'm
Yeah,
telling you.
push-ups, that's the answer. Well, you know what? She's an athlete too. So
Mhm.
I've got to go beyond push-ups because she does that in training. So I got to figure out something else, which is take the phone away. See, that works more now. Phone,
Mhm.
electronic devices, that's how we handle that.
So now, is your daughter involved in the programs that you do for high school students?
She is involved in two ways. One, now she helps out as internship, so she's working and learning the business.
Awesome.
And two, she can now be a junior counselor at my camps.
That's
So
great.
that's because she used to be a camper, but now she's a junior counselor. So she helps with the lunches and taking the kids to the bathroom registration, things like that.
And is she continuing the Clark family dynasty in running?
She is. She happens to be one of the best athletes in the country in her
Wow.
discipline. So that's
What's her
exciting to
event?
see. She runs the 200 and 400 right now.
Mm-hmm.
So she does that. And we, go to her track meets and try to let her have all the glory. But they recognize me and from time to time they make announcements. But it's all about her.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a nice little team together with her. And she enjoys that. And then she's also really good in school. So she's
Are you
balancing both.
coaching the team, or is your brother coaching the team, or she
No,
has a non-family member?
Yeah, well, she has her godfather and uncle. Her uncle is her godfather, so he coaches her. And then her school has a coach, and she uses them as well.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Now, if anybody is really paying attention and they're doing the math, I never said how old you are.
Yes.
But I said when you started, and
Yes.
I said all the decades that you were involved.
Yes.
And now you're the mother of a 15-year-old.
Right.
So how old were you when she was born?
I was 40 years old when she was born. I didn't get married until I was 38.
Mm-hmm.
I was traveling and being an Olympian and just doing me.
Too busy for that.
Yeah, too busy for that. So at 38, I got married, and then I had her at 40.
Mm-hmm. So what addition? Now, I assume you were in great shape when you were pregnant. And did you continue exercising through your pregnancy?
Actually, Donica, it was a little different. When I got pregnant, I stopped running. I retired in 2000 after my last Olympic team. I was 38. So I retired, and then I tried to have a child, and then I had a miscarriage.
I'm sorry.
And then that's okay. I mean, I things happen. So I had the miscarriage. Now, I speak about that because a lot of athletes do speak about it. Women have miscarriages, and they don't know that other people are having them. They think it's just them, which is what I thought until
1 in 9 pregnancies ends in miscarriage.
Right. And so
how far along were you?
I was maybe, I actually had two. So the first one, I was probably 6 weeks, and the next one was 10 weeks. The thing I look at that now is twofold. Look at it as one, the baby wasn't going to be healthy. Right. One. So although you say you're sorry, the good thing about it was at 40, I could get pregnant. Mm-hmm. So a lot of my friends could not get pregnant. So I saw the upside. Right. So with that being said, why was that happening? Well, I was 3%, 4% body fat, and I hadn't had a cycle consistently for years. Mm-hmm. So I had to, as a doctor, the lining was weak, blah, 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 blah. So we went through all those things to get my body right, which was no exercise and to gain weight.
So let me explain to everybody everything you just said.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Women have, it's just, when women, it's what's fun about this podcast is it's a conversation between you and me, but it's also a conversation between everybody who's also in the ladies' room overhearing our conversation and listening, and they want to learn and they want to benefit from it. So one of the big issues with athletes, not just in track and field, but, in many other sports as well, and it was first studied actually in dancers who have a very, very low percentage of body fat. And this actually can cause a condition called athlete's amenorrhea. It can be in anybody who's got a low percentage of body fat, but we call it athlete's amenorrhea because it's most obvious in athletes. So most women, when their body fat goes below, say, 15%, their periods start becoming irregular, or they just stop altogether. And that's kind of Mother Nature's way of saying, you're not eating enough to feed a baby, or you don't have enough fat reserves for a healthy pregnancy. So that's why you got the recommendation that you did. That has nothing to do with why you had a miscarriage once you were already pregnant. Right. They probably didn't tell you any particular reason that you had a miscarriage, correct? Because most of
they didn't know 100% why, but they did know it was my body fat was still low, my levels were off, and so I just did not think I was going to get pregnant that soon. So once that happened, I backed off and then gained some weight and started eating right. So I gained like 7 pounds. It went up to maybe
I could do that in a
8.
weekend.
So I gained 7 pounds. And so that whole thing, and then the next one was fine. So
Yeah,
I
that's
think
awesome.
that because I did not think that I would get pregnant so quickly, I just did not listen to them initially. And so once it happened, I'm like, whoa, I could be okay here. Let me just not go through this again and take care. But a lot was learned through that, spiritually, health wise, reaching other women that in my sport that I had that situation as well, and then also appreciating everything when it came to fruition. So for me, again, it was something that was, I wouldn't say it was daunting or traumatic, because there was a lot of upside that I saw.
Mm-hmm.
So I think had I gotten some different results and conversations, it might have been more traumatic. But for me, it was encouraging and inspiring. And so, you know what, Joe, as an athlete, you've always gotten prepared. So prepare yourself for this next stage. That's what I did.
Right.
And I was
We always
blessed to have a
say
healthy
it's
one.
not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get up.
Absolutely. Get up and learn from being knocked down. You
Right.
can't get up and do the same things and expect a different result. So that's what happened. I moved on, and 15 years later, she's 5'10", taller than me, and doing well.
That's awesome.
Yes.
So the other thing I wanted to mention is that when you have athletes amenorrhea, you're not producing enough estrogen. And that's what you were talking about not building up a big enough the lining of your uterus or the endometrium. And that also can be a progesterone factor as well. So sometimes doctors give women progesterone. I actually had what was called a threatened miscarriage when I was first pregnant with my son, when I was 6 pregnant. And I think my athletic spirit really kicked in then. I was like, I am not losing this baby. Yes. And everybody told me, you can have another baby. You can have I was like, I want this.
I want this one.
And for years, my son would say, tell me this story again about how I tried to be a misborn.
That's true.
So
I tried.
Pretty amazing when they're all grown and you look at them and you remember what you had to go through. Now, of course, women over 35 have greatly increased risks, not just in terms of their ability to get pregnant, but they also are more likely to have miscarriages, in part because they're more likely to have other medical problems, which I assume you did not have. You did not have diabetes or high blood pressure or any of those things.
I was fine.
But they're also more likely to have chromosomal abnormalities, which, we never check for that in a miscarriage. But as I said earlier, 1 in 9 pregnancies in the United States ends in a miscarriage. So it is very, very common. So I give you a lot of credit for, speaking out about that and talking about that. Now, did you have any other complications in your pregnancy once you were pregnant?
I had a great pregnancy. I gained the 7 pounds to get pregnant, and then I gained maybe 15 more. So I didn't gain much. Healthy pregnancy. She was breached, but they knew that because my abs were so tight, and they couldn't turn. There was no space for her. But I was Dr. Donica. I'm one of those people that deals with reality.
Right.
So the reality is that she's breached. She can't return, but the option is I have a C-section. Right. So I mean, I don't. I need to have a natural birth. I'm not going to be this. The most important thing in my life was at that time for her to come out healthy.
Right.
So whatever you had to do to me, I could endure that. Right. Have a healthy pregnancy. So I try to tell women all the time, it's great to do whatever you want to do, and you and your husband decide to do what you do, fine. But when things are not going the way you plan, don't get so bent out of shape that you miss the blessing, which is a healthy child. Right. Be it underwater or in the plane, however people are doing stuff nowadays.
Right.
What matters is that you maintain a healthy body so your child can come out and be healthy. So that's what I did, and I tell women all the time, you are the doctor. I'm not a doctor, but I can tell you I was banned from the computer during my pregnancy because I became a doctor instantly by going online, researching this, that. So it was just too much, overwhelming, too much information, and I didn't have enough knowledge base to process it properly.
Yeah.
So everything that I was reading, I had. So I just stopped. I did not do anything, and I went with the doctors, went what they said, and I just prayed about it, and then I just left it alone because it was just, I had this, I'm researching, it's just too much.
Yeah, and I think what I always tell women the same thing is that I do refer to the internet as the too much information superhighway. It's great for background knowledge and background education. But even anything I say
Right.
on this podcast or in my lectures is just for background information. The only person who can give you personal medical information about your own personal individualized situation is your own personal healthcare provider.
I
And that's
agree.
extremely important. I also had a C-section. I also had, my son was breech, but he did
Okay.
term the week
Okay.
before. He still was a little preterm. So I
Yes.
went into labor and then I wouldn't give in and I stayed in labor for 7 days. That was my biggest athletic accomplishment ever.
So, wow.
But then finally it became clear that I needed to have a C-section
Right.
because he went into fetal distress. And it
Oh,
turns
yeah.
out the umbilical cord was double wrapped around his neck.
Mm.
So there was no way he was going to come out healthy.
Right.
It was a vaginal delivery.
Right.
And I think that's the thing that people have to realize is there
Right.
comes a point when you just have to say, and by then he was over 6 pounds and
Yes.
you know,
Right.
everything,
Yeah.
thank God, was fine.
Good. Absolutely.
And he hasn't caused me any problems at all since then.
Well, that's a good thing, Doc.
Yeah, so all that's good. But I
Yes.
think women have to realize that once they're over 35 and having children, that there are additional risks.
Mhm.
And I think that's, you know, a very important thing. And we used to call women over 35 who had babies, especially for their first baby, we called them an elderly prima-grava, which means they're, you know, older and for the
Yes.
first time. We don't use those terms anymore
No, thank you.
because it's really kind of rude.
Yeah, it doesn't sound too good.
No.
But you know, for your audience, and we're going to move on to another topic, I'm sure. But
Mhm.
I think it's important for women to realize that whatever you decide to do, the age, or whatever, you know, make the decision based on what you and your beliefs are.
Yeah.
So for me, they wanted all these different tests for me to do. I did some, and then I just kind of bailed out after five months because it was just too much.
Right.
And I'd already prayed about it, and she was going to be healthy. I already knew it was going to be a she. I prayed for it. I got a name out the Bible, which is a big thing. So I just decided to go with doing the healthy things that I was supposed to do, and then everything else will work its way out.
Yeah,
But don't let anyone discourage you with your age. And if you don't want to have the different tests, whatever, that's up to you. Be confident and be vocal. And so if you don't want something, you don't have to have it done.
Yeah, the vocal part is extremely important because your relationship with your doctor is the same as any other relationship in your life. We're not mind readers,
right?
You know, so you have to communicate what you want and what your values are. But you know, you set me up perfectly for segueing into the next topic,
Okay.
which is what are your tips for women over 50,
yes,
or we'll say over 45,
yes,
who for staying in shape or perhaps getting back in shape if they've kind of let things slide,
right.
especially in the years that they were raising their children
Yes.
or distracted by running a career and a household and the kids and everything. And they wake up one day and they're 50 and they say,
Yeah, doctor. Well, you know, that's a very good question. And people ask me that question all the time. I say that, you know, I'll be 56 in August. And
I have a year on you.
Okay. Well, we both are doing well. That's a blessing. And I tell women that, you know, 20 years out. So when I was 30, I was in prime shape. So that's why I'm in prime shape now. If you want to make it to 70, God only knows your timeline, but just say what you can do. If you want to make it to 70 and 80, you have to put the work in now. And so it's like a 20-year spread, if you will. So I tell them that put yourself first. And it's okay to do that because if you're not taking care of yourself, you cannot take care of the family. And so when you tell them that, it's a starting point. But the thing is to keep it consistent. Well, I don't have time. I have to do this. I have to do this. And I say to them, and I look at them, look, time is important, but if you're not on this earth, your time is gone. So it's better for you to put in 20 minutes of something now than to not be here because you didn't want to do that. So when I tell them that, they go, well, how do I start? Start where you are. Do not start where your friends are. Start where you are. That's where you start, and then you work your way up. So it's great to have a training partner. All these things are great, but there's so many things you can do at home. There are videotapes, there are YouTube videos. There's so much that you can do at home. But know get a goal, write your goals down as to what it is that you want to do. The first thing you want to do is to start eating healthy. Eat healthy, exercise, and then work on other things. Because I know people that exercise, they eat ice cream.
Hello.
Constantly as meals though.
Can you just call me every day?
I can. I will do that. They want me to give them a workout, but then they don't want to eat the correct foods. So they're eating popcorn with cheese. They're eating Haagen-Dazs ice cream. But then they say, you know what? We're not eating meat anymore. I'm like, well, you'd be better off eating the meat than what you're eating. Yeah. So you have to be consistent in what you're doing and realize it's a balance. It's food plus exercise, and that's walking, treadmill, kickboxing, jump rope, stretch. It all you can do. Is so many things to do now. And for those of you who don't want to go to a gym, you can do it in privacy of your home. You have steps in your home that you can walk up and down. If you live in an apartment, you can walk up and down the steps in the apartment building. So there are things that you can do. You can park far away from the grocery store and walk in. You can go somewhere and walk on the outside so they're driving from when you go to the strip malls from spot to spot to spot. Park your car and then walk from to all the stores in the shopping complex. But be consistent is what I would say.
The food thing is really important. And this is something I really struggle with because I am really, really, really good at telling other people what to do. And I am really, really, really bad at doing it myself. And I actually blame that on my years of being an athlete, because when I was a swimmer and I was working out 4 hours a day, I not only could eat everything that I wanted, I had to eat everything that I could because I just couldn't, had to get enough calories. And then when I stopped, I had all these bad habits as far as eating. But what I often tell people is you can't out-train a bad diet. So that's the first thing. I love, I'm coming back to the t-shirt, eliminate excuses, because I'm seeing it. And what you've kind of addressed in your, last few minutes was the typical excuses people have, right? So the most common excuse, number one, is I don't have time.
Right.
So you addressed that. If you don't make the time, you're not going to have any more time at the other end. Yes. The next biggest excuse I think I hear from people is I don't have the money.
Yes.
Or it's too expensive. So you addressed that. I'm always talking about how walking is free.
Yes.
Walking costs you nothing. And at least in New Jersey, and I'm sure in lots of other places, the malls open an hour before the stores. So you can actually do the mall walking programs without paying anything. Right. And without being tempted to stop in the stores or the food court.
Yes.
A big hazard for a lot of people. But what are some of the other excuses that you hear aside from time and money?
Well, the eliminate excuses is my clothing line and my program is trademark. So I use that a lot for various programs. And you're right. Excuses are for losers, I always say, because you can make a lot of excuses and you're going to lose. If you want to be the champion of your life, you have to eliminate these excuses. And another thing, I don't have anyone to work out with. I don't have a partner to go with. So that's another excuse. The trainers are not, don't really know me, so they can't really make the correct program for me. But that's what they're certified in doing. Mm-hmm. They would get to know you when you fill out the questionnaires and things like that. So those are some other excuses. The other excuse is that they don't know what shoes, they don't know what shoes to get. There's so many of them. Well, I'm like, well, if you go to the store and you talk to someone, they will help you. So I always say, stop trying to talk yourself out of something and talk your way into something. So you talk your way into training, talk your way into finding the trainer, talk your way into eating healthy. Look, I've made 4 Olympic teams, and I love ice cream, and I still love ice cream and peanut M&Ms. That's my weakness, but I did it in moderation. Mm-hmm. So you have to learn that. And then you mentioned too about eating. My metabolism was off the chain, as I'm sure yours was as well. Mm-hmm. But as we get older, it slows down. So it slowed down for me as well. But I always say, if I'm in the health and fitness industry, I want to look the part. Mm-hmm. So when I'm on stage as a speaker or with my outfit on, my workout outfit on, I have a certain look that I want to have at all times. So that's important to me. So I ask you, as you eliminate your excuses, find out that one thing that makes you tick. whatever it is. You want to be able to wear your wedding gown again, or you want to look good at this party, whatever it is, then that will be your energy to keep you consistently doing something. And when you accomplish that goal, find something else. What happens is we do the one thing, and then we go, okay, we got into the dress now. No, make it a lifestyle.
Right.
Yes.
Right. What I always said is diet is a 4-letter word. It begins with DIE. So, we have to think of a live it as opposed to a diet.
Yes.
So now tell me about the P's from your book, because I read it a few years ago.
Yes.
I don't know that I remember all the P's.
Well, I know all of my P's. The book is called The Joetta P Principles for Success, Life Lessons Learned Through Track and Field. So I used my track experiences to put this book together, but the book is used for corporations, for colleges, for high school students, and each chapter has a P. And at the end of the chapter, you have a template that you develop for your life. So the first P is purpose. What is your purpose? And then we go into how do you prepare? So the purpose, you prepare. Then you have to be patient. You get perturbed. You persevere, and then you pray. So perturbed is a big word, but you pissed off.
I specialize in that one.
Getting perturbed. And then when you're in that, when you're going through your purpose, what is your reason for being? What's your raison d'etre? Why are you doing what it is that you're doing? How are you going to prepare? You can't blame anyone. You have to be responsible. And then you have to be patient. I made 4 Olympic teams. I tried out 6 times. We talked about the prejudices. You have to be patient. You're not going to get what you want all the time. You have a doctorate degree, and you didn't go from undergrad to medical school. It was steps. It was stages. So then after you're patient, you get perturbed because people are going to say, why are you doing that? You're a woman. You can't do that. You weren't raised here. These excuses as to why you can't do something, and they tell you that because they can't do it. So they want to pull you into their lackluster lifestyle and their excuses. You can't do that. And then you have to persevere. By all means, continue to be motivated, and always say, get off of that nail. Don't stay on that nail moaning and groaning, because if you do, you get a callus on your behind, and then you become exempt and you don't feel the pain. If there's a nail on you, you feel the pain, get motivated and get up and do something about the situation. So that's the persevere, and then you pray. You always pray to help you to get through and to help you with decisions. So those are the P's that I use for track, for any sport, and then also for life. If you use those P's, you'll be successful. Then I have a garden too that we're talking about healthiness. I plant my garden of P's, which are the P's: have a purpose, get prepared, be patient, persevere, perturbed, and pray. Then we plant 3 rows of let us be focused, let us love one another, let us be respectful. Plant 3 rows of squash gossip, squash criticism, squash indifferences. Plant 3 rows of turn up for work or school, turn up with a new idea, and turn up with a determination to do a better job today than you did tomorrow. And then also in this garden, you have to plant some seasons. Mm-hmm. So you season the garden with knowledge, you season the garden with your authentic self, and you season the garden with hard work. And if you do that, you'll be successful, and whatever your goals are, you will achieve them.
That is awesome. That is awesome. I feel like we just got the summary of the audiobook. So I do
that we're working on.
Everybody get your book. Before I let you go, I do have a question that I ask all of our guests.
Yes.
And, as somebody who's spent years and years in locker rooms, I'll expand this question. The question is usually, what is your most unique or distinctive or interesting or different memory of an experience that ever happened to you in a ladies' room? So we'll call it a ladies' room or a locker room.
Wow, geez.
The thing that just stands out the most.
Well, I don't know. I think I can do both. In the ladies' room, I get people wanting me to sign autographs when I'm at events. They say, "Oh, you?" And I go, "Yes." And they, "Can you sign?" Or now they want to take a selfie. Mm-hmm. So that's now.
In the bathroom.
In the bathroom at the airport, doesn't matter where we are. They want a selfie or an autograph. And
do they ever confuse you for somebody else?
I used to get confused for Jackie Joyner Kersee. Lisa Leslie,
Mm-hmm.
and recently, Whitney Houston.
Oh, that's
and
good
then,
company.
yeah, and Gail, the newscaster,
Gail King.
Gail King,
Oh,
yes.
you don't look like
So
Gail King at all.
I don't
No,
think I look like any
not
of them, but
at all.
when my hair is different, she wears it down, and you know, as women, we change our hair, we do the
Right.
hair color. So there's some times I can see it, but the one I think most would be probably Jackie Joyner Kersee,
Yeah.
and Whitney Houston, depending on how I had my hair. So that's that. But in the locker room, I think in the locker room, you know, we're talking, you know, girl talk, and we're talking about, you know, they ask you you know, they ask. I'm studying with this because it's kind of, I guess it's embarrassing.
That's what we talk about
Yeah.
in the ladies' room.
And
We bring it all here.
yeah, you sit there, you know, you're getting undressed and you're putting on your track outfits and you're getting ready to go out. You know, someone's staring at you, they're like, well, you know, what are you looking at? You feel uncomfortable. You know, we're just admiring your triceps and your biceps. I'm like, your abs. I'm like, well, this is too much now. I'm like, well, you know, when someone looks at you when you're not fully clothed, you know, all the way clothed, it's kind of uncomfortable. But they look at it, but we're just admiring. And I'm like, well, I don't feel comfortable with that, but thank you anyway, and continue to get dressed. But that's what happens when you're on the circuit. When you go to the track circuit, we would go to the rooms, we just switch out. And then it's like, what are you looking at? For God's sake, you know. So that's an embarrassing moment, and something that I remember that people would make those comments in those spots. It's okay if you're at the beach and stuff, you know, you know, if you have a tank top on. But when you're in that locker room, the same thing you see on the beach with your bikini and your little briefs is the same thing in the locker room. But the comments are kind of uncomfortable in the locker room for me.
But at least they're positive.
Yeah, that's a good swing. Yeah, they're positive. And the women in the locker room were fit as well. So I know that they really meant it, because
we did have that situation in the news a few months ago where there was a very rude woman in a locker room in a gym who took a photograph of a woman who was obese,
right,
and posted it online, and she was not dressed.
Right.
And, you know, that's such an evasion of privacy.
Right.
You know, and you've talked about bullying in your programs with kids.
Yes.
You know, we all want to get on the case of the kids who are doing bullying. But what I have become so acutely aware of, perhaps since 2016, is how much adults bully each other. Or worse, when adults are bullying children.
Kids, yes. I think that there's a lot to be said with that. We do parenting 101, how to behave and work when you have a kid as an athlete. So at the events and also at home. And the one thing that I tell people that, look, it's not your kid, it's someone else's kid. So whatever you're doing or saying, would you want that to be said about your kid? And the answer is no. So you are the example. And because you are behaving one way, these kids see that and they behave another way. And the other thing is, if you think the officials are doing such a bad job, get your certification and you become one. So be part of the solution and not part of the problem. So that's what I say. So when my daughter did soccer and basketball and people would say things, whatever, they say, you know, it'll be okay, because I can't jump up at everything. But I think a couple of times I had to get protect my little duckling, and I have no problems doing that. But I also protect other people, because not everyone has what it takes to say something and stand up. And when you look at someone and they tell you that they're saying about their parent, about their child, and you can see the pain, sometimes I would step in. You know, people don't always do that, and that's just that's what I do. I'm not saying that for everyone, because people are crazy out here and you can end up with something big. But you're right, lack of respect. So that's why I said you have to plant your let us love one another. Let us be respectful and appreciate everybody. And that's the bottom line. So as an adult, you set an example. And I say, listen so our kids can talk, and talk because they are listening.
Well, I think you have set a phenomenal example, not only for all of us as parents, and not only for our children to look up to as a role model, but for all of us to look up to as citizens. And I just want to thank you so much for coming and sharing your wisdom. Before I let you go, please tell everyone how they can find you on social media, how they can get this great t-shirt that I'm going to order as soon as I get off the phone, how they can get your book, all that stuff.
Well, my name is Joetta Clark Diggs. So if you forget the website, you can just Google Joetta Clark or Joetta Clark Diggs or Joetta. The website is Joetta Sports, SPORTS, and beyond.com. The t-shirt, the books, the bag, the water bottles, those are all on there. Plus, you mentioned the word phenomenal. I'm doing my second annual Phenomenal Fit and Focus Summit in New Jersey at the New Brunswick Hyatt in November
So I
1st.
have to come to that.
We may even ask you and see if we can work something else that you can be on one of our speakers as well. So
would
we'll
love
cross
to.
that bridge a little bit later on. But everything will be on my website, which is joettasportsandbeyond.com. Twitter is at Joetta CDSF, and Facebook is at Joetta Olympian, and the same with Twitter. So you just put my name in social on the Google, and it all comes up. But most importantly, Doctor, thank you for having me in the locker room with you, in the lady room with you, and your podcast, and a continued success to you and all that you do for women in your business, and also with the podcast.
Thank you so much. And I am going to focus. I have learned so much from this session. The number one thing I learned is I need to plant a few more things in my garden.
Yes.
And I need to do a much better job pulling the weeds out of the garden and nurturing the garden.
Right. You have to do that. You don't want to choke out your existence.
Right.
You want to remain vibrant and attractive as you are. So thank you.
Thank you. Annie, thank you so much for coming. And I hope we see you again soon.
Yes, you will.
Take care.
That's all we have time for today. But let's keep the conversation going on Twitter or Facebook at Dr. Donica. And please join us next week for another episode of In the Ladies' Room with Dr. Donica. Real conversations with real women about really intimate topics.